We are making churros today. You know, those crispy, crunchy things that everybody talks about at Disney. Yep, you can make them yourself. Ready?
Mm-hmm.
Let's get started. Hi, I'm Laura with the Disney Slowdown. I'm going to help you plan your magical vacation with your special needs kids. Slow down, savor the moments, avoid the meltdowns. Stay on budget and have a great time. Today we are going to actually make some Disney recipes. I see in the groups a lot, everybody's asking what's the best snack, and the churros are a very big dividing force. You either love them or you hate them. And I've also seen that Disneyland has the best churros. I've never been to Disneyland, so I couldn't tell you. I do know that during the closures, Disney actually released several of their own recipes, and churros was one of them. We never made them during the closures, we made a few others, but I thought, you know what? This is something that's simple that you can make at home, and then maybe while you're planning your trip, you can make yourself some Disney eats. And then hopefully when you're in the parks, your kids won't be begging to have them because you've already made them at home. That works for me a lot. We do a lot of baking. Baking is also my therapy. And so when we see something in the parks, sometimes it really is just a cookie or it really is just a cupcake. So if you kind of get fancy and Disneyfy your desserts at home, your kids will be less likely to ask for them in the park. But I wanted to try the churros because one, I've never made them, and it's been on my bucket list. Now, looking at the recipe, I was really surprised. It's just pâte dough, which, if you know anything about baking, you will know that pâte dough is used in cream puffs or eclairs. I thought about dividing up the dough and making some cream puffs and eclairs and put them in the freezer. I haven't totally landed on that idea yet. I guess we'll see how much dough is there. Now, Disney's pâte dough does call for a little bit of cinnamon in the dough, although I don't think that would be a bad thing in a cream puff or an eclair. Do you?
No.
He wanted to help, but he's just standing here. He did measure the flour, and yes, he is standing on a step stool because I have short people in my house. All right, let's get started. All right, we are going to add the 8 tablespoons of butter into the pot along with 1 cup of water. And I don't add the salt because I use salted butter. And then we just need a 1/4 teaspoon of cinnamon, and we're going to bring that to a boil.
I don't know why churros taste so good.
Because they're fried bread. Is it boiling yet?
Mm-hmm.
Are you sure it's boiling?
Not yet.
Not a rolling boil. Okay, you can stop stirring. Put that up on top. You know how to do that. There you go. Do you need your step stool or are you okay?
I'm okay.
All right. I am calling that a rolling boil. Now we reduce the heat a little bit before we add the flour. Reduce the heat and we're going to add 1 1/4 cups of flour. And then we just stir vigorously till it kind of forms a ball. So you can see the dough's pretty good. And now we get to add 1 egg at a time, stirring vigorously and continuing to incorporate. You need 3 eggs total. You let the dough rest for about 5 minutes, which I don't think that we actually did. And then you add 1 egg at a time. Go ahead, Jane. Add the egg. And then you stir it vigorously to fully incorporate.
No shell.
Good job. Yeah, the first egg, I totally added a shell. Just stir hard, Betty. That's all you need to do. Good job. Now that our dough is... Now that our dough is incorporated, it's just sitting off to the side for a little bit, let it cool. I wanted to show you some of the tools that I use. You're going to want a star tip. These are large. You can see they're larger than a regular icing tip. You can either do an open star or a closed star. It really doesn't matter. I think we'll do an open star today. I hadn't decided, but now I will. I also like to have a pastry bag or an icing bag. In my list, which I will attach in the description below, I have Disney Treats DIY, I think is what I called it. And so I have a lot of these tools in there for making your own Disney sweets and treats. Piping bags, these are disposable ones. I also have a couple of reusable. I like these. You can also see in my list, you can see the difference between a 12-inch and a 16-inch. The 12 inches are fine, and I think there's 100 of the disposable ones for like $7. But if you are going to be doing a lot of cookies or cupcakes, or maybe you're making a double batch, you might want to get the 16-inch. I think I put the 16-inch in my list because it's kind of nice to have that extra space. So sidetracking just a little bit, your tip is going to fit in the bottom. You don't necessarily need a coupler. You can stick it right inside. But once you put that dough in, you're definitely going to want more than just that very top part. So the 12-inch may not give you enough room for even a single batch of whatever it is you're doing. Buttercream frosting, royal icing, pâte à choux dough. So just beware. I would always get the 16-inch if it fits in your budget. I think we got these 12-inch ones in a set when I bought a whole bunch of tips. Side note, if you do get a reusable pastry bag, I would get 2 reusable pastry bags, and I would cut one to a large tip and one to a small tip. If you pre-cut both to a large tip, or if you only get one and you only have a large tip, your small tip, you're not going to be able to use it. It's going to shoot right through.
If you're watching this video, like and subscribe and to my mom's video and smash that notification button.
We have our dough in a reusable piping bag. I keep going back and forth, back and forth. Do I do a disposable? Do I use reusable? Well, I already had one cut for a large tip. Smells like cinnamon. Think these are going to taste good? Of course they are. Like my little chip clipper. All right, but first, before we fry stuff, I have another recipe I want to try. Bear with me, it's not Disney. My absolute favorite donut is the French Cruller, and Dunkin' Donuts just stopped selling them. I used to be able to get them at Kroger. We don't have a Kroger by us anymore. Dunkin' was my only solace, and now they've stopped selling them. So I decided, you know what, I'm going to check those out, because I thought when I tried to make them before and I used a recipe that I had found and it was garbage, and I was like, this should be a pâte à choux dough. And so I went looking when I decided I was going to make the churros, and I discovered the churros were a pâte à choux dough. It's a little bit different, but I decided, you know what, if I'm going to heat up some oil and fry some bread, we're going to try the crullers too. So thanks for my little sidetracking. Are you opposed to French crullers?
Kind of.
Really? You don't like them?
Not really.
Okay, well then I'll eat them all. I'm okay with that. I'll probably stick some in the freezer. I don't know. I haven't decided. Maybe I'll just eat them all. This dough starts very similar to the pâte à choux dough. It just says half milk and half water, as opposed to all water, and then a tablespoon of sugar, and you still have 8 ounces or a full stick of butter. Bring that to a boil, and then you get to add your flour. We brought the water, butter, milk, a little bit of sugar to a rolling boil. Then we dump in the flour all at once, and we stir vigorously. Then we put it back on the heat, although my burner's still hot, so I'm not turning it on. And we just keep rolling it and pressing it into the pan for a few minutes, and then we're going to remove it from the heat and let it cool for a bit. To cool quickly, we have to drop it. That's why you use the step stool. We have to drop it into a mixing bowl.
After the dough is cooled for about 15 minutes, then you beat in 1 egg at a time. This dough uses 4 eggs instead of 3, so it is just a little different than the normal pâte à choux dough. Look at my little helper. Why don't you send him some hearts in the comments? He'll love that. You want to cover the dough with cling wrap so there's no air in between the dough and the film, and then chill it for at least an hour or up to 24. I started piping these out and just twisting them off, but I don't really like that method, so I'm going to use scissors. And I can actually use one hand to pipe and then just snip it there. I probably made this first row a little bit too big. This is a lot easier. One small pan down, and look at all the dough I have left. Holy Moses, this makes a lot. I thought about cutting it into thirds. Maybe that would have been a good idea since we had 3 eggs, but that's okay. We'll just share them with friends tomorrow.
I switched tips just to see if I like the close star better. I'm undecided. I just keep working the dough down. It's actually not real sticky, so I would suggest a reusable piping bag. I like it. Definitely can smell that cinnamon. I cannot wait to get these in the fryer.
You can see they look a little different, and man, I still got a ton of dough left, but these are going in the freezer. Hopefully the other ones will be finished. It's time to heat this oil up and drop them in to fry. I went ahead and froze these overnight, so they were nice and firm when I dropped them into the oil. I was surprised that they didn't get as toasty brown as you would expect. When you're using the new oil, you're not going to get that dark golden brown like you're going to see at a restaurant, because honestly, the oil is reused over and over. So that adds to the darkness of the golden brown. I don't have much oil in this pan, and you can kind of just toss them around. They're not super thick, although I contemplated maybe finding even a bigger tip so they would be a little fatter, kind of like what you find at Disney. And it's so nice to have one of those little fry baskets. I also have that on my Amazon list for the Disney finds, so you can get one of your very own. Just toss these bad boys around in your cinnamon and sugar mixture, and voila! Go ahead and try it.
It's good.
You like it?
Mm-hmm.
Probably not as good as Disney. They're not bad. Definitely cheaper. You don't even know.
Okay, now for the taste test of the churro. I like the cinnamon in the dough. It definitely needs salt in the dough. I thought because I used salted butter, I wouldn't need the salt. No, it definitely needs salt. The cinnamon sugar on the outside is a very nice touch. They're not as thick, as you can see, as when you would get at Disney. You could probably use a larger piping tip to get a similar effect. And I loved freezing them and then just dropping them in like French fries into the oil. One thing that you will notice if you're making these at home, if you're using a new oil, they may not get as brown as you think they will, because I wasn't sure if they were done on the inside. Definitely done. Very tasty. Worth it. When I started this endeavor with the crullers, I thought, you know, it's the same dough. Is it going to taste the same? This is definitely not the same dough. That 4th egg makes a huge difference. This is way more sticky. And I'm not sure if these are going to drop well in the oil or not. And my piping is horrible.
Some of them turned out well, and then I think I had a bubble or a piece of flour that took care of those. And then this one over here, yeah, I totally dropped my phone on the plate. Isn't that awesome? And now for the moment of truth. I went ahead and froze these all night. Definitely highly recommend that. Yeah, look at my bubbly donut. I'm going to drop it in the oil. Let's see what it does. Well, these are not easy to flip at all. Watch me struggle. Yay, success. I even had to stand this one on its end just to get the one side brown. There it is. Whatever works, man.
Well, it's Sunday, and there's a whole lot of excitement going on in my kitchen right now, so I stole away to my bedroom to try my cruller.
It looks like a funky funnel cake, but I'm hoping that it tastes like a cruller. I did not put a glaze on it. I want to taste the dough. Oh, wow. Oh, wow. I mean, obviously it's flatter than a cruller you would get at a grocery store, but I did look up like the donut plunger for a cruller and they're super expensive. Like nobody's making crullers, I get that. So I will just suffice with this. Oh, it's light and fluffy and airy on the inside. I wish I could find a way for it to stand up a little more, but that's not going to happen without the special tool. Okay, I'm a huge fan, and this might be dangerous. I will say, as I'm eating this, the dough called for a little more salt, and I thought since I used salted butter that I wouldn't need the salt, but that's not true. I most definitely would add a little bit more salt to these next time. But other than that, I'm really super excited. If you saw my dough was splitting and I couldn't figure out why, there was a shell in the dough and it had gotten stuck in the piping tip. So once I cleared that out of the way, then I was able to pipe prettier donuts. So this was just one of the ugly ones. I'll probably try one of the prettier ones and see how they are on the inside. These are so good. Samara's going to be so excited. I hope you enjoyed our little baking expedition. Have you tried making churros before? Did you try them during the pandemic? Let me know in the comments. I would love to know if you were one of those people that tried the Disney recipes. Like I said, we tried a few of them, but we didn't do the churros. So did you like them? Do you make them regularly? I don't know how I feel about them. Like, I think it's almost a one and done thing. Like, they're okay, but they're also not my favorite snack in Disney, which I think what I'm going to do, my next video, I might just walk around the parks on the map and we talk about snacks that are actually worth it in Disney, because sometimes it is just a cookie or it is just a cupcake and you don't want to spend your snack money or even your snack credit if you get the dining plan now on something that's basic, right? You don't want to do that. I think that's my next video. I'm having fun with this. I love baking. Baking is my therapy. Thank you so much for tuning in and joining me, and I hope to see you on my next video.